I wanted to ask you something. I feel kind of dumb.
I don't feel dumb. What's up?
Okay, please don't say anything, but I need your advice. I don't know. I don't think I'm a good kisser.
Just kiss me.
What?
Just kiss me. It's not gay if we're practicing for boys, I promise.
Oh my god. Casey and Pepper were totally making out. Apparently she's a lesbian.
I kiss girls and I'm not a lesbian.
What? So what's better, kissing girls or guys? Just tell me.
Hey,
You were the reason I was bullied last year.
you're the boyfriend stealer here.
I am not and never will be a boyfriend stealer. I'm a fucking lesbian.
What? You're gay.
Yes, I am.
I thought a lot about you today, about how you made me feel beautiful and safe.
Are you ready to learn the next one?
Yeah, show me.
Okay. It goes, if you like it, yo, go big blue, go big blue.
Cool. Perfect. Man, I'm so tired still.
Oh, you're so lazy. We've only done a couple cheers.
Whatever.
You know what? I am so mad that I got put on the bottom of the pyramid underneath Allison Brody. And you know she's gained 10.
This second story deepens the film's exploration of queer visibility and emotional truth by shifting the setting from private confession to a more socially charged space where performance, hierarchy, and peer scrutiny quietly govern what is allowed to be said and felt. And Belle and Lola's interaction unfolds as a study of how queer curiosity and self-knowledge often surface amid environments that outwardly celebrate femininity while simultaneously policing it. The scene begins with rehearsal language. Counting, instruction, repetition, underscoring how cheerleading, like many traditionally feminine institutions, demands discipline, synchronization, and the suppression of individual discomfort in service of collective image. And this context matters because it mirrors how young women are often taught to perform desirability and confidence while concealing vulnerability or divergence from the norm. Belle's growing confidence contrasts with Lola's fatigue and frustration. And this difference subtly establishes their emotional roles. Belle as the eager learner seeking approval and affirmation, Lola as the more seasoned participant, who masks exhaustion and uncertainty with humor and bravado. Their casual body talk and complaints about team hierarchy reveal how women's bodies are constantly evaluated, ranked, and discussed, creating an atmosphere where worth is externally assigned and internal feelings are easily dismissed. And it is within this environment that queer identity becomes something to joke about, speculate over, or deny rather than openly inhabit. When the conversation turns to gossip about Pepper and Casey, the scene exposes how quickly queer intimacy becomes public property once it is suspected, stripped of its emotional context and reduced to labels and stereotypes, with assumptions about sports, behavior, and appearance standing in for genuine understanding. Belle's insistence that Pepper must be a lesbian based on these cues reflects society's reliance on caricatures to make queerness legible, while Lola's pushback introduces a more nuanced perspective that resists easy categorization, suggesting that attraction does not always align neatly with identity labels. This tension is crucial because it highlights a core struggle many queer women face, the pressure to define themselves for others before they have had the space to understand themselves, and the fear that any deviation from heterosexual norms will be immediately fixed, named, and judged. Lola's admission that she has kissed girls without identifying as lesbian or straight becomes a moment of quiet radicalism, not because it rejects labels outright, but because it asserts the legitimacy of fluidity and personal truth in a culture that demands clarity for comfort's sake. Her casual tone, framed by jokes and deflection, reflects how women often soften revelations about queerness to maintain social safety, using humor as a shield against potential rejection or ridicule. And Belle's oscillation between fascination, teasing, and curiosity mirrors the ambivalence society holds toward queer women, intrigued by the idea of female intimacy yet uncomfortable with its reality. The language used, including slurs framed as jokes and the repeated insistence that one can engage in same-sex intimacy without it meaning anything, underscores how deeply ingrained the minimization of queer experience is, especially when it occurs among women whose desires are frequently dismissed as phases, experimentation, or performances for an imagined male gaze. Yet the film does not endorse this dismissal. Instead, it reveals it as a coping mechanism born of constraint, showing how Lola's reluctance to claim a label is less about denial and more about preserving autonomy in an environment that would otherwise define her on its own terms. Belle's persistent questioning, wanting to know which is better, is framed not as voyeurism, but as a search for reassurance, reflecting a broader cultural anxiety about comparison and hierarchy that seeps into discussions of desire. And Lola's eventual admission, offered quietly and without spectacle, that kissing girls feels better carries weight precisely because it is understated, presented not as a declaration but as an honest response to a trusted peer. This moment resonates with queer audiences because it captures the way truth often emerges sideways, spoken almost accidentally, and how such admissions can be both liberating and unsettling, especially when there is no clear path forward for what that truth means. For many queer women, this scene may echo memories of locker room conversations, rehearsals, or late-night chats where feelings were tested through hypotheticals and jokes before anyone dared to speak plainly. And for women more broadly, it reflects the universal experience of navigating identity in spaces that reward conformity and punish difference. The cheerleading setting amplifies the stakes because it is a space that demands hyper-femininity while remaining tethered to heteronormative expectations, making any expression of same-sex desire feel simultaneously invisible and dangerously visible. The film uses this paradox to comment on society's discomfort with women loving women. Female intimacy is often tolerated when it can be framed as playful, temporary, or non-threatening, but it becomes unsettling when acknowledged as genuine desire that exists independent of male validation. This discomfort persists because it challenges long-standing power structures that rely on women's emotional labor and bodies being oriented toward men, and because it exposes the limitations of narratives that define women's relationships as inherently competitive rather than deeply connected. Belle and Lola's dynamic, filled with teasing, trust, and tentative honesty, illustrates how queer women often negotiate their feelings within these constraints, offering fragments of truth while gauging safety, and the film's refusal to sensationalize this process allows it to stand as a truthful depiction of becoming visible in incremental, imperfect ways. Symbolically, Belle represents curiosity shaped by external rules. She wants answers, but also wants permission, while Lola embodies a guarded self-awareness that understands desire as something personal and evolving, not owed to explanation. Their interaction mirrors the real-world pressure on queer women to either loudly claim an identity or convincingly disavow it, leaving little room for uncertainty, and by lingering in that uncertainty, the film affirms it as a valid and meaningful space. Ultimately, this story contributes to the film's larger argument that queer truth does not always arrive fully formed or publicly declared. It often surfaces in rehearsal rooms and half-jokes, in moments of exhaustion and candor, and it deserves to be recognized not as spectacle, but as part of the ordinary, courageous work of women listening to themselves and each other, finding language for feelings they have long been taught to ignore, and taking tentative steps toward authenticity, even when the world around them remains unsure how to receive it.